This is a meeting of the Hamden Capital Planning Committee at 6 p.m. August 3rd, 2021, and we're at the Townhouse, 625 Main Street. This meeting is being conducted in person and by Zoom. Present are Bob Marco, Town Administrator, Dick Vitello, Town Treasurer, Thad Pravat, Resident and Secretary of this committee, John Flynn, Selectman, Molly Olson, Technology Assistant, and myself, Lisa Sternberg, Chairman of the Capital Planning Committee. All right, so taking a look at the minutes here. I don't know if I had to have this on, but we do have the meeting minutes from Tuesday, June 8th. It's not on the agenda. So we have to hold off on accepting this?
I would say, yeah.
Okay. So we're going right to the review of the updated vehicle replacement schedule that's dated July 28th, 2021. And we're also, as part of that, going to talk about the police vehicle that may be on the warrant for the special town meeting in October. So I guess we
Selectmen had this on their agenda last night as well.
Right, I brought up some concerns to the selectmen with the, I'll be right out there. We went to the special town meeting last year and told the townspeople that we were going along with Chief Farnsworth's recommendation to replace a cruiser. And the town voted in favor of that. And unfortunately, that was not the path the police department took. And I brought up the board, I wasn't happy with it, and I think the board concurred with that. So Bob is going to be working with the chief to reflect more accurately the new vehicle.
I spoke with the chief today, and he said to me that Farnsworth had decided that he would take over the new car, the new Tahoe. And so the chief said, I just did what Farnsworth was going to do. He cycled the other Tahoe, 2019 Tahoe that the chief was using, down to the detective. We now have a detective. And that was the car that was bought with fiscal 2020 funds. The Maytown meeting authorized another car that they order those cars in August. So he's about to order another car, which would be a Chevy Tahoe, because the department has decided to convert to the Tahoes, allegedly because they last longer. That Tahoe will replace one of the patrol cars with, at this point, this mileage was measured towards the end of May. At that time, it had 93,000. Given the construction and delivery schedule, a car with 93,000 should have above 100,000 when this new vehicle is delivered. Aside from the question, which the selectmen are going to have on their agenda on the 16th, whether or not the chief should have taken the new car or put it into patrol. The chief is also interested, I should say, in asking town meeting in the fall for authorization for another car. That would make 3 cars in 2 years. That car would replace the other patrol car that, with this data, had 87,000 and should probably bounce over 100,000 by the time, if it's ordered in November, by the time the car would be delivered in calendar 22, it should have the 87,000 mile car should have over 100,000. So that's where we are. We have the question of whether or not to authorize what would amount to the 3rd car in 2 years. And then secondly, whether or not it was a good decision that should be changed for the chief to have taken the brand new Tahoe for his own use.
I would also say then that this sheet passed out that isn't reflective of that. Because the detective car, which is car 5, then, if that's what's happening, would then show the 20,000+ miles that the chief's car had before.
Yes. You're
And it would
correct.
go back to, if we had a car that had 20,000 miles, it should have replaced one of the cruisers, not the detective car that goes back and forth to the courthouse.
This goes to the courts.
Can I ask a question, just because of my ignorance here? Is there any difference in the equipment that's put in the cars for the chief or in the detective car versus the patrol cars?
I believe so, yes. I don't think it's outfitted, prisoner transport, things like that. It's a car for back and
The
forth.
so-called, I don't think it has the so-called cage.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to know that. I'd like to know,
Mhm.
well, if it was my decision, I would like to know if there was, if they have to equip them differently, if they become permanently or even semi-permanently administrative vehicles rather than patrol vehicles.
Mhm.
If they're not, if they're all equipped the same other than decals,
Right.
I'm not sure I care which car is which.
Mhm.
We're going to have to turn the whole fleet over from Ford to Chevy anyway. And we're going to be buying all new equipment every time we do this.
Right, but the chief's car was a Tahoe with 20,000 miles on it.
Right, but.
And it was a car that was used for basically a personal vehicle, if you will, as part of the contract. There was really no reason to flip that car, in my opinion,
Is.
when you have 2 patrol cars approaching 100,000 miles.
Well, they didn't
So
flip
now
that.
we have two cars without cages.
Possibly, yeah,
Which
possibly.
we did before. We had a detective car and a.
So-
chief
Then we
car.
have three.
So the old detective car, is that going away?
That was the old chief car rolled to a detective car. Again, no cage, whatever. But again, that car,
That's,
which showing is roughly 70,000 miles.
So that they're not ready to throw that away yet.
No.
Well, they just did. That's my point. If he's saying he rolled the old chief car down to detective, then that car went away, which was a car that went back and forth to Palmer Courthouse.
It's- Sounds to me like we're making some assumptions unless you know a lot more than I do.
Well, this is the information I'm getting from Bob. And I go back to, because I'm the guy who stood up at town meeting and said, we're asking for money to get a new cruiser.
Yeah.
And now we didn't get a cruiser. And I feel like
Well-
I wasn't straight at town meeting.
Well, I can certainly understand that, and it's kind of convenient that the chief can blame the dead guy. That you can do that for a year or so, you can always blame the last guy. From this committee's point of view, we're looking at doing, from Thad's work here, we're looking at doing analysis on what the lifespan should be. And I think the place where we intersect with this is we need to gather more data.
Mhm.
We need to be more, I was going to, one of the things I want to do is ask you what you actually need.
what I need, and I just need to know, can I drive over there and beat it out of them? It's probably the wrong word to use, but basically, I need mileage. Even the sheet that I did the other day, what I assumed these mileage numbers were from June 29th, you just indicated they were actually from May.
End of May.
Okay, so, and that's the problem with spreadsheets, that we don't know the dates taken. I think I need to gather data from the police department
Mhm.
by vehicle for 6-month periods or 3-month periods. I don't have a problem. I mean, they say it's all logged over there,
Mhm.
It is.
so it should be relatively easy to gather that data. And I can put it in a spreadsheet and lay it out, because the best information that I have, and regardless how many cars the police department has,
Mhm.
they drive 92,000 miles a year.
What about the maintenance side of it? Have you figured out how to get the maintenance broken down by vehicle?
Other than what Bob
No,
has
that's
on
what,
there.
Mhm.
when this thing was first done a year ago, I had asked the chiefs, as well as Mark, to start tracking by vehicle. So these numbers are tracked by vehicle. And when the new information came over to me at the end of May from Kathy, they had the vehicle expenses.
So they should have a sheet or a spreadsheet of something over there that says, here's this vehicle and this is what we spent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would it be
They just
more
weren't breaking it
efficient?
down by vehicle before.
Would it be more
They have-
efficient?
yeah, so-
Would it be more efficient if you set up for Thad to be able to deal with them directly?
Sure.
I mean, I
Now,
can go over there Thursday
now
morning.
Kathy just started 2 weeks vacation,
Okay,
but so as far as the major, well, you could probably get somebody to walk you through the cars and the mileage and
at
all.
least,
You
at
can
least
get
it's
mileage,
right,
but
since
Kathy
it's.
is the one who controls. I haven't seen her spreadsheets or however she's
Yeah,
doing
I
the
mean, I can
tracking.
go
I
over
just
there and
know
open the car doors.
they
and
are
take the
tracking
mileage.
by vehicle.
What about the issue of cages too at that point?
You can see what's in the
car.
car,
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what they are and where they're at.
Well, that's what I think, we happen to have an expert here in this field. So I'd like to utilize as much as possible, and I just think it's much more efficient to have him be able to do that directly rather than to go through you or go through the
That's
select.
fine. That's fine.
I agree. My point is that we had data from that where we have 4 cruisers and then 2 cars that are not used as cruisers.
Yeah.
We had 3 cruisers that were at over 70, over 80, and over 90. And therefore, I feel the vehicle that we appropriated money for at town meeting should have replaced one of those cruisers. Because
Well-
that's the primary purpose of the police department.
Well, my
And that
question-
was, I believe, and you were there, that was, I believe, the message we gave at town meeting.
My
we were
question is,
getting
did the
cruiser.
detective car become a cruiser?
Could it? But I
Did
mean, that, no,
Did
no,
it?
the detective car was another car with 70,000 miles on it. And that would have been in the rotation, but
But we don't know.
with
what
its
they're
type
doing
of
with it,
usage, it didn't need a priority like a cruiser did,
And it don't have a cage.
and didn't have a cage.
We assume.
And we still
Well,
have
that,
that one?
the one with 70 did
Do we
not.
still have that?
Well, I think that's what Bob's reporting, the chief turned his old car to the detective car.
He cycled down. As opposed, I'm not, I'm not
Although
sure
it's not
that's a good
reflective,
idea.
it's not reflective on the sheet.
In general, I didn't challenge it because he's a strong chief. But I don't think it's a good idea to have the newest vehicles used as an administrative car. The newest
Right.
ones ought to be out on patrol.
You may be right. I think that might be outside the scope of our group.
I do too.
Okay.
If I was just to cut to the chase, do I think they're looking at the mileage? Do I think it's appropriate to ask for another vehicle to fall town meeting? I would say yes.
Do you-
And then administratively, we have to talk about
I would actually,
where it's gonna go in the fleet.
I would say no. Based on 92,000 miles a year being driven, they put a car in a week ago.
Right,
They're ordering another car that should be delivered in January.
right.
In theory, that should wipe the car with 100,000 and the car with 90,000 off. The next vehicle is going to be in the 80s.
If they go ahead and repurpose the one they've already purposed, that would be
Exactly.
true.
They'd have to
Right,
exactly,
repurpose
yeah.
the new top.
What, getting away from the police department, what else do you need? What other departments you need to get inside? Fire department. Okay.
Now, Mark keeps his up to date.
And I did bring forth.
The
this
most
like-
up to date is the highway department. Their
Yeah.
records seem to be pretty good.
Yes.
It's the fire department is, based on the fire department, they only got 18,000 miles a year.
Yeah, but they run in hours, not, it's like a tractor, it's hourly usage, not so much mileage. Yeah, because they sit and they idle and that's wear and tear on.
Do they
Fire
document
department?
that?
Fire department does?
Oh, sure,
Well, the big trucks will have hour meters on, the little
Right.
ones won't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the little ones
right.
have that same issue. The
Because
two
you could look at oh my gosh, I'm gonna run 10,000 miles. Yeah, but the pump ran, like you said, 20,000 hours.
So has James been breaking those repairs down by vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
From the highway department standpoint, I've had conversations with Mark, and as you know, the Parks Department is lobbying for a truck. So Mark does have a truck that's due to be replaced. And if we're interested in expanding the, so to speak, the town fleet, that truck could roll down to the Park Department and replace I believe it's a 2000, do you see it there? That's like a 2008.
From the,
250, I think, maybe truck
yeah,
two.
350, 250, 78,000
Yeah.
miles on. So 2012.
I know that the data from the fire department are correct as of the end of May,
Mhm.
Okay,
because I remember the conversation I had with Jane.
Yeah.
She said, I'm going to have to pull all the bills
Yeah.
because unlike, the request was made to do tracking a year ago, but apparently that was not done in the fire department. So I know she went and pulled all the bills by vehicle and gave us this data,
as of May.
end of May.
If nothing else, get the mileage readings at, you know, such and such date in August.
Yeah.
And then we got 3 months to verify that these mileage numbers, because the mileage numbers from the year before, I don't know if those are good starting points. You know, I mean, if 80,000 miles is a good number,
Yeah.
it might not be the good number for the highway department, it might not be a good number for the fire department, because of the difference between engines
How they use
and
it,
running the
right.
pumps and that sort of stuff. But the vehicle itself should last more than 80,000 miles.
Yeah, it should. I know other towns where I've worked, they would use police vehicles up to 110 or 120.
So
Okay,
if you see what we've done with
Well,
the
those
dump
are
trucks, we, you know, with the dump trucks where we
So
change
you
out the
want primary
bodies.
access to the fire department?
well, if the police department's on vacation for 2 weeks, I can hit the fire department, that should only take.
See, I know the fire department numbers from last year are accurate because I did it. I went over there. I had
Then
a
they-
firefighter start up every truck that they have and I copied the miles myself.
Can you set up something for him to go up and meet with the firemen and go walk through on the equipment?
During the day would be the best.
Oh, yeah.
There, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I-
Yeah,
Thursday's a good day for me.
chief doesn't arrive from his regular job until around 3 in the afternoon.
That's no problem.
So I
Go
want
out there
him
in the
to be
afternoon.
with you. You can get it all done in 45 minutes. There aren't that many vehicles.
Perfect.
So, in conclusion then, you're going to meet with both the police department and with the fire department. And in that Kathy's away for 2 weeks, you're going to arrange to go over and just check out the vehicles ahead of time, or?
The police department, I can
Yes.
wait till she comes back, because it's.
Oh, okay.
I
It's
don't
gonna
think
do
it's
the fire
gonna matter.
department first.
Oh, okay.
We'll do the fire department first. I mean, I can
Mhm.
go over and see Mark and go through his. I gotta go see him anyhow about my river.
Okay, so this all should be pulled together if we meet again after Labor Day.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Well, you know, this is gonna be one of those projects that as time goes on, our data gets better, our decision making gets better. You know, right now, we're still gonna be winging it. You're still
Oh, yeah.
looking for a few baselines.
You gotta get the baselines developed. I mean, that's one of the things that would be great would be if they just first of the month, go out and take a mileage reading of every one of your vehicles.
I think they do. That's what we do with our salesmen. Same thing. They have to send that in. Yeah.
They may do it, they may have it written down over there in a book for all I know. And that way your baseline is.
Put you
right
in the
there.
distribution,
better,
basically, yeah.
so could ultimately that be a recommendation, I don't know, through the selectmen that that the various departments start doing that on a monthly basis
Yeah,
from this committee so that we can make better
Sure.
decisions on how the rate of mileage per month and all of that.
Now, and the other thing, about the other shortcoming on this is that given that the Tahoes, according to Farnsworth, will last for 4 years rather than 3, I've stretched out the purchase schedule to 4 years for the Tahoes.
yeah, I say,
But you know, the estimates are for the cost also,
Yeah.
just rough estimates. What it's
projecting,
gonna cost in future years.
projecting it out like that is fine, but, you know, once we have the baseline of the mileage, we know, I mean, right now, it tells me we need to buy a car every 14 months.
Mhm.
You know, not every 12 months, not every 2 years, every 14 months, a car should be bought. One car every 14 months.
Yeah, that's what I
And
like.
that solves the problem.
I
We
like,
don't have, and it may be, well, it's never gonna fall more than 2 in 1 year. You know, if it goes 14 months, there's gonna be years where there's no cars purchased.
I've been pretty happy with the highway department, both under the current administration and the previous one. Dump trucks are scheduled for 20 years. But we have to do better than that because he knows that, okay, I can put it off a couple of years, and when I say I need it now, he'll get it now. You know, so we've been running about 22 years on those trucks.
And by changing out the dump. so
He should last a lot
live
longer.
You know.
Yeah,
Well,
And the Sanders get rusted out quickly.
yeah, well, now we got all stainless, all season bodies, so we don't have that separate sander problem, which is nice.
the Ford, Fire department still has the truck on that they're getting rid of. When do we know when their new trucks?
It's supposed, it's coming shortly. For the Eddie.
Or
I think the
depending if
delay-
They got a chip.
The delay is across the industry,
Yeah.
just like the chief said.
I was in Belize and there's not a single car in the show. You know, over at Belize.
So I decided with Pam that when we change the tags, that's when we change the chart.
Makes sense.
So other than those three departments, I think the dog office is the only other vehicle, right?
There's two at the bottom, one for
Well,
Board of Health and Animal
Board of Health.
Yeah,
Control.
that's just a trailer with the stuff in it for the.
Oh, that's the trailer.
trailers,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Animal Control has an Explorer
Yeah, that's the roll
with
down.
only 28,000. No, 110,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Which technically you might be able to get that information from police. They're kind of, she kind of reports to them now.
And that was the rollover from the fire department. Fell down to them.
Police to fire,
What's the date of the October town?
We haven't said it yet, but typically it's the last Monday. Because
Okay,
the worst thing about October is that holiday in the middle. And that
Right.
throws off the 2 week, you have to have.
selectmen have
gaps and stuff like
Tuesdays
that.
about that.
I wouldn't mind having it earlier because we have a pretty good sense of articles coming forward. We have a pretty good sense of free cash coming forward, but I don't know what we've gained by, pushing it up a week or two.
And with all the work that we're doing, that's doing here, would we have enough information to make a recommendation to the selectmen as far as
Sure.
the purchase of the police vehicle that's in question?
I would think so. We're talking 2+ months right now.
Okay, so that's kind of a goal
Mhm.
for the next meeting, to have that.
Good call. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, depending on how much data they have going back.
All right.
Well, the only issue I see is that if we do this, we'll probably do it, another car. Then our starting point is we have three relatively new Tahoes. And so when they reach their end of their useful life, it's likely within the same year. Although we'll have to juggle that to some extent,
Mhm.
that we would need to buy new vehicles.
Well, but then you get into, I think, back to Thad's point, usage. So you say, okay, I have a
Yes, oh,
Tahoe
you
with
see.
50,000, maybe that should go to the detective car because all it's doing is going back and forth to the courthouse
Right.
and get the cruiser instead.
Right.
You're like, you know,
You got two 2017 Interceptors on there right now. One's got 87,000, and one's got 84,000. So
That's why the new ones.
somebody's driving more than the other. That's just a rotation of daily usage. That's looking at the mileage every month, and when you see one getting too many miles, you swap it around.
Right, next on the agenda is a discussion of the school tours. I had arranged for Aaron Osborne, Finance Director, and Ed Senadella, the Buildings and Maintenance person for the school district, to meet up with those of us who could meet up on July 20.
Wednesday morning, last Wednesday morning.
Okay, by 27th. Okay, and of those of us who are here, Bob was there for about a half hour, I think, and then he had to move on. And Dick and I were there for the entire time, both Green Meadows and Thornton Burgess.
As was Doug Boyd.
Exactly, yeah, Doug Boyd was too, he's just not here today. I'm wondering, Dick, if we could just talk a little bit about what we saw and the good news, because there was good news.
There's some very good news. I gotta tell you, overall, I was very impressed with the state of the building. Green Meadows looks great. I don't think I've been in there in 20 years. Considering it's almost paid for, it really does look good. We talked about upgrades that are happening on that building, and they basically came down to two categories, flooring and air conditioning. And both, what I was happy to find out is both of those are easily phased projects. The air conditioning that they're adding as needed is with mini splits. And they're doing a couple of rooms a year type thing. They've got a new flooring system that they're going to do a test. He was talking about wanting to get 4 rooms done. Not only is it supposed to be more durable and work better over concrete, but it also cuts down the amount of chemicals that need to be used for stripping and relaxing, which is, has an upside to it. The other piece of good news over there is they had told us about a drainage pipe that was under the building that needed to be jackhammered. Well, they sent a camera crew down and turns out it's in the middle of the yard. So they're hoping they'll get that fixed this summer. So, yeah, it's between the two wings out there in the middle, so that was really good news. TWB looks a little bit more tired, but there's some good materials in there. We were commenting on the ugly color of the tiles that are like these tiles that will last forever.
Pale pink and, yeah,
Hey now, those are
very
great.
60s.
So actually comes with that.
Yeah, pink
Yeah.
and blue and whatever.
And the terrazzo type.
It's terrazzo. The mechanical room was redone there 20 years ago when there was the money left over in Green Meadows, and it's all functioning beautifully. Some of the lighting needs to be updated. They're still on T8 fluorescents in many of the buildings.
We did meet with the grid last week, and that was one of the buildings we did reference an
That would
energy
be a
audit.
real good idea. Again, the only thing that I saw that was major there was they're talking about a roof. And, they plugged in $1.5 million for a number that might be light that, or not. And basically, well, what I said is, well, it sounds to me like you're saying it could last 2 years, it could last 10 years. But when you say it's time, we're gonna have to pony up. And he said, that's exactly what I want from you.
Right.
So they'll nurse that sucker as long as they can. But at some point, we need to have the ability to write a $2 million check if we have to.
They've done a good job of keeping that roof in good shape, that crew there. The other thing that came up a few years back was changing out the windows. And they were talking about that for an energy efficiency thing. But the reality in my mind was they were talking over $1 million to change out the windows to save $10,000 a year in energy. And I don't know if you do it at your house for that type of roof.
Plus, air exchanges are good.
Is it a roof a buildup or what is it?
There's two different roofs. The gymnasium is a pitched roof, and then there's a rubber membrane flat roof on the main part of the building.
So it's membrane.
I believe so.
They very possibly can extend that if they, unless it's leaking
Understood.
now.
Mhm.
And I
They
think,
attack it ahead of time.
And they've been a good job keeping it up.
yeah, I think it'll be okay, but it's eventually it's gonna happen.
Just like the parking lot and the
But-
drainage there as well.
But, it's between stabilization and borrowing, we could take that hit when we needed to. And, my philosophy would be to keep ourselves in a position where we could take that hit
Mhm.
on a 1-year notice if we needed to. That we wouldn't need an override to get it done.
I did speak to a company a year or so ago that was interested in helping us with the roof if they could put solar on it. But in speaking to the grid last week, there really is kind of a moratorium on new solar projects at this point. So I don't know if that's really an option for us.
I wondered, I thought about that afterwards. This would not be a new project for grid. Would it not generate electricity for use by the building?
It's possible, but the town is already in a contract for energy, so to speak. So you'd have to,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not, that building's run by the district, not by the town.
Mhm.
So that contract doesn't apply to those accounts.
Right.
You know,
but again, same thing. What they were sharing is they're a bit oversubscribed at this point. So they're
Yes.
really in a bit of a hiatus, looking at their infrastructure. Can they take on more? The subsidies will end after a while, pretty soon. Now the solar project are going to have to make money on their own.
good luck.
So
I don't think we talked anything about the exterior doors at TWB, but it seems to me they were on the sort of schedule that Aaron Osborne handed out to us.
Yeah, but they weren't, that's kind of a phased in thing, I think, if I remember right.
We did talk about that. It's just in a general category of the handout he gave us, and it says TWB replaced exterior windows and doors, and he threw in there a figure of $750,000 for fiscal year 25. I don't know where that's going to be as far as doors, but
I'm surprised because Dick, you may recall, they were replacing doors on not an as needed basis, but remember when they were doing the mag locks and they were replacing the doors at the same time? So I'm surprised it's,
I didn't get the impression this was gonna be a big all at once project.
Yeah.
But, the other thing is, if you put it on the capital list and you don't spend it, you're a hero. You don't put it on the list and then it comes up, you need it all of a sudden. We certainly don't want to get in a situation like the high school where the maintenance gets deferred so long that, well, we might as well just tear the damn thing down, build a new one.
What was the upshot of the parking lot over there?
Yeah, it depends. Well, it was more dependent on use. We're not running a lot of school buses through there. We can live with a parking lot that's getting patched now and then. If the use intensifies, then we'll probably have to put in.
the biggest problem with that parking lot is the drainage breaking down underneath, and you see that around them.
Yeah,
They did say that if there were a problem with plowing that chunked out some of the asphalt or whatever, that the highway department here was doing a great job
Yeah.
responding very quickly.
If the parking lot's not too bad a shape, what I did down south was chip, oil and chip.
Yeah.
You know, like old country roads.
yeah, and I think we're breaking up. I think,
If we're breaking
and
up,
I
then-
think John's point is right on target, that there probably some drainage work's gotta be done
Right.
to replace some pipes.
If you recall, we did the back by the basketball entrance, because we had
Yeah.
run piping underneath at the same time.
But I think a lot of that's gonna key on use. Right now, they don't even plow the whole lot, because they don't use the whole lot.
Well, I was certainly surprised at Green Meadow. I didn't get to stay. I wasn't able to stay, go through Thornton Burgess, but I thought for a school that's over 50 years old, at least the main part of it, it had been very well maintained. And the plan that they described for new flooring seemed to make a lot of sense.
It's had two big refurbs that I know of. This one 20 years ago, there's one that I served with your dad on the committee
Before that.
before that. Probably 40 years ago now.
I think it was 84.
When you were
I think that
10,
number
when
was
you were
20.
10,
It was like 84, and then the most recent was. like
92 or
2000.
something, no,
Yeah.
02, something like that.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is actually the year, this fall is the last payment.
I think
right?
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Can we have a party? This
I
fall?
mentioned that to Doug Boyd, because he was on the committee. I said, we should have like,
Mortgage.
A little
burning
cake or
I
party.
think
something,
we
yeah.
should.
Mortgage.
burn the note.
We'll bring the charcuterie tree. You always say you'll do that, so here's an opportunity.
Can we pay for the cake under CARES money? Bob?
We'll throw it in the fire. Yeah, and what was really good about that tour is that the head custodian, Daryl Fildalgo, who's been there forever, was giving us a history of the building and indicating where, this is where the new section went in. And Ed was doing the same thing, so.
I'll share a little something. We were dealing with a pole issue at the entrance. And I was out there with the grid last week. Daryl came up and the pole that's right at the entrance of North Road going down, the erosion there is incredible. He took a stick and he was able to poke down the hole. He's filling it on a weekly basis. And he can poke that stick down 4 feet. Now, what I also look at is the entrance, and I mentioned this to Mark, there's a lot of cracking there and a bit of a sinking. I wonder if they've got a bit of a underground erosion problem, and that may be something we're gonna have to look at in the entrance part. That
It's
could
probably
be,
the fault of the upstream neighbor.
what, the Gurnixes? That's not nice. Don't be blaming Ben Pop. Now, that's not fair. Yeah, the neighbor next door wants to talk about the kids in the backyard, just the noise.
I don't blame him. I would never live next to an elementary school.
So this is a pole outside the front entrance?
It's the major pole that supplies. They had to redo, the biggest issue is the gas lines are right there as well.
But it's out by the road you're talking
The one,
about.
but the erosion is incredible. So you
Yeah.
wonder, that gets into, if you see a little sinking there, is there a problem with the entrance to the school as well? And that's getting, I hate to say it, a lot more traffic than it used to when we were younger.
Oh, my
Because
Lord.
now with everybody driving their kids
Number of
there.
SUVs lined up there is ludicrous.
And that's why we should have a little refreshment stand and sell to the people in line. You can make some serious money there.
So raffle tickets.
Little Starbucks kiosk.
This is kind of nuts, but could that erosion be related to that crazy underground stream that's there?
Is there one there?
Yeah.
Well,
On that
she-
side?
No, she's
Under-
talking about the one with the broken pipe that goes. up.
Right, but that is a
Yeah.
natural,
No,
Yeah,
it's
but this is up by the road.
it's up by the road. That broken pipe is down by the septic field, isn't it?
Oh, Darrell said that it went under the building.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but what he's talking, where he's talking about the problem
Oh, yeah, I
is
see.
is at North
Yeah,
Road.
It could be running downhill under the buildings.
You never know.
Kind of what
You
I'm
never know.
throwing out there
Okay.
anyway.
it's surprising, underground hydrology. You really have no idea how water moves under the road. It's incredible. And we all know there is a brook coming down behind bumps that does move towards, that one always came down by Mountain Road, where that's going. Just goes to show, you can look somewhere all over town and find some place that has to be addressed for a need coming forward. Bob has been working on the new bridge project at Laughing Brook. And this gets back a bit of a capital thing. He's got a grant that will pay half the money for the engineering study. But that does nothing for actually replacing the bridge, which is going to be, if you recall, the last bridge, we did Summers and we did South Road, many hundreds of thousands.
They did tell us, though, that the small, it fits the dimensions of the small bridge program. So,
Dana was able to get, what was it? Almost like it was a used bridge from the I-90 refurb project.
Was that the one by Rockwell's, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, we were able to get like,
Yeah.
basically it was a culvert they were done with for temporary usage and fine. For our needs, it was fine.
And moving on to a discussion about the elevator for this building, townhouse. Did anybody have a chance to talk to Wendell Huber, Bobby, about, we talked about, he has a lot of knowledge about,
Well, we requested the
Elevator.
selectmen go back and give us some kind of information on the mechanicals in this building. The study on this building was real good on ADA, did some of the deficits, but we've been hearing anecdotal things about plumbing, heating, electrical, and possibly drainage systems here. And we were talking about going back and seeing if we could get some kind of an assessment of that part of the building so that we could talk about how this building could be improved, reused, whatever. Have we had anything from the selectmen on that?
no. The one approach to this that I think makes sense, as of yesterday, we can apply for a planning grant through the State Office of Disabilities. They will tell us what the buildings in the town need to comply with accessibility standards.
We've had that study done for this building.
I know I have that, but I'm just doing this because it's a formality that's required before you get real money from them for project stuff, including an elevator. But what my thought was that, is there a way that we can piggyback onto that assessment, the information that you need elsewhere with basic systems?
When we had this discussion in the spring, John was suggesting, I think, and I'm not trying to put words in my, that we could probably get somebody to do an assessment for a few $1,000s, maybe $5,000.
Right.
And so, and the discussion that I remember the group having was, it's hard to make informed decisions on what improvements should be made to this building until we know if there's any booby traps, any hidden problems with the mechanicals. And I'm just thinking that, if we can write a check for $5,000 and get a serious evaluation of the mechanical systems of the buildings and any of the liabilities that presents, that might be a lot, quicker and,
it's okay though,
okay,
it keeps recording.
okay, but will you lose Craig?
No, it's just a TV screen.
Oh, just the TV, I'm sorry.
But your point is just like we talked about, without complete data, we can't make informed decisions.
Right, exactly. So, while I appreciate the king of grants over here looking for the kill, I really want a fast and dirty assessment of if we've got bigger underlying problems.
We can do it if we can find 2 to 5, right?
I don't know. Was the building inspector involved in a conversation with us about this?
He did send out something relative to the kind of elevator that in other words, the standard elevator would cost in the range of $500,000, something he calls a Lulu, which is a limited use elevator for handicapped people.
No, my
It's in the
question
range of
was,
200,000.
was he involved in this assessment on mechanicals?
No,
Okay,
I don't think there's been any progress on that. And I agree with you that this is, and to go back to 30B type thing, to hire somebody for $5,000 to do an assessment, doesn't require a bid. This is just maintenance and it's service. It's part of, you would pay for it out of townhouse maintenance, basically.
right, because I just don't feel like we can make any intelligent decisions on this building as long as that's hanging over our neck, that people are alleging the mechanicals are no good.
You know, we're aware of obviously structural issues. I mean, you're tired of the snakes coming in and things like that.
Yeah, they're supposed to have snakes. You keep the mice down.
Town clerk.
They're clean country snakes.
So this week, next week or so, Bob and I will work on getting a firm to come in.
Do you have, like, somebody, if the furnace quit running, he takes care of that? You got it.
Well, Jane is
Like a
pretty much the
heating
building
con-
manager for that, and she has a list of people she calls for, whether it's B&G, BG Mechanical comes in, things like that.
Yeah, because those might be the kind of people that,
It could be.
it may be two or three different. I mean, you might just have a guy who works on the heating system, look at that, and then get an electrician to go.
Well, if you,
through
like I
that.
say, if you had somebody, give me a thing, if he subs it out, I'm gonna get this guy to look at this part, this guy to look at it, and I'll give you a full report
Yeah.
for X number of dollars. We don't care who we get the information from, as long as they're reputable and licensed.
So water, heating, ventilating, electric.
Right.
Fire system.
The roof is in good shape, we know that, because that's been done. We had the new membrane one put on, we just had, I think, this part re-shingled 2-3 years ago.
The cupola looks great.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah. Hasn't caused any
In
leaks.
the right place too.
No leaks.
The mini split system seems to work very well here.
Mhm.
No, that's.
I will tell you though, they're tough to get now, because we buy them for training equipment, we make trainers on mini splits, and the delays, you're talking 10 to 12 weeks to get it.
So with an eye toward the next meeting, are there things that on the elevator issue that we should try to have accomplished before, I'm thinking mid-September? And would that be a time that Wendell could come in and, or someone report to us about the progress that will be made in the next 5 weeks? or
Right, so we'll guarantee you, we'll get that report back to us, so we'll have the car analysis, vehicle analysis, we'll have a report for the building, for the committee to review, and obviously the goal would be to get it done so it can be sent out to the committee, and everyone comes in with having looked it over. Because it's not great, walking, oh, here it is, well,
Right.
I expect
right,
it.
right. So.
if
what
you're
is-
scheduling for mid-September,
Yes,
we'd get it,
to us, go ahead.
we'd get it back to you hopefully by, right after Labor Day.
Perfect.
The committee has a week or so to analyze it, and then we come back and you schedule a meeting for all of us to share our thoughts on it.
Great.
Right.
Yeah, jumping the gun a little bit on it, but because of Labor Day and then the Board of Selectmen, we meet on the Tuesday, we've been meeting on Tuesday, that realistically, then we should go to the following Tuesday,
Sure.
which would be September 14th. So that's kind of what
I like
we're
that.
shooting for, and I'm just thinking of how to keep this ball rolling, because there's a nice chunk of time between now and then
Mhm.
that, with any luck, we'll
Well, we'll go forward with getting someone to do an assessment
good.
of mechanical systems. And
We can keep an eye out for just before, a few days before anyway, is that probable meeting in September. Okay. I put on here the mission statement for the fire department because last official meeting, June 8th, I think that's when we decided that we needed to have the Board of Selectmen talk to Ed. But there was also the matter of the fire station study committee. So all of that was kind of happening,
Mhm.
and I don't think that, the information I got about the fire station study committee and then the recommendation not to do that from the Board of Selectmen, but to go to Chief Poulin directly, I got from the newspaper. And so maybe, John, you can tell us where that's at in terms of meeting with Ed.
Well, and Bob, fill in if I'm wrong. I think that brought back to the board and the chair really felt that this was a project that the board should take over and not impanel a citizen committee.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and actually, we had it on our agenda for the first time last night.
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
We began.
I think what we felt that the study that was done on the firehouse was probably more than the town of Hampton needed, but we couldn't be sure. And there's two decisions that I think need to be made by management. And I mean, it is the selectman who manages the fire department.
Mhm.
One is that will they be expanding shifts? Or is it going to be simple daytime 8-hour shifts?
Mhm.
Because that has a huge impact on what we need for building. And the second thing is, are we going to be in the ambulance business? Or are we going to stay with a private contractor? Because that also has a huge impact.
True. And the other thing I brought up at the meeting was, if you recall, gosh, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when they were initially lobbying to replace the tanker, it was imminent. And as I shared at the meeting, well, we've gone now a year, 2 years without that second tanker. And our question to the chief is going to be, how has that really impacted your operation? Have we gotten by without it? Maybe that's not something we need to plan for.
We haven't. had
We've been
a-
very fortunate that mutual aid is there for us.
We haven't had a huge structure fire, thankfully for that. The other piece of information that we needed in order to analyze the addition was from the fire chief, what his ideal equipment list was.
Right.
But there's no way that he can answer that question until the selectman or whoever answers the first two questions. Are we going to go to a multiple shifts? And are we going to run our own ambulance?
I had looked a few months ago at costs in Wilbraham, and East Long Meadow, running full-time departments, 2 million plus for both communities. We're under 500,000 here to run the fire department. Question is, will the public here, would the public support quadrupling the budget of the fire department in order to have a
Well, yeah, I mean, from.
But
an
it gets back
economic-
to, but are they doing their purpose? And it goes back to, okay, you're saying we're spending 500,000 for one shift. Are we doing what we need to do? Are we failing the public by not having 3 shifts because we're not putting out fires, stuff like that? And I think that's part of the question as well.
Well, you know, and that is the question, is when a call goes out for a fire,
Mhm.
are we getting the turnout?
Right.
Most of the calls are medicals.
Mhm.
And some of the firemen, what I've heard anecdotally is every time the thing goes off, it's a medical, and I'm not a medical guy, I'm a fireman. So I've just heard of some of the call volunteers say that. So I don't know if that dilutes the mission. I'm rather confused about that.
Yeah, I have
About-
that.
Our whole medical response mission confuses me. You know, and I don't know. You know, when they were running scenarios on, before we hired Action, they were running scenarios on what it was gonna cost for them to staff an ambulance. And when I looked at that, they gave me their numbers to review, and there was nothing that was less than $1 million. And we're doing with a private contractor for a third of that.
Unless there's a compelling reason to not have that contractor, I can't see of any reason to expand
Yeah, I agree.
more that the fire department's doing right now.
I agree with you, but that's unfortunately not my decision, it's theirs.
Yeah.
You know,
We had a meeting of the ambulance oversight committee last week. Everything seems to be going well.
nobody's complaining. Okay,
So you'll be meeting, John, with Chief Poole, it's on the agenda for
Well-
Monday. Yes,
and however they get to the decision,
Okay.
it's their job to make the decision.
I just thought it was said that that's on the agenda.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. I do have, I have handout here, and it's something that Bob had sent to us by email about capital planning committees in small towns. So just reminding people that that's there, and I have a couple hard copies.
That's part one. I think he's gonna do 3 parts. This is a Zach Briggs.
And Haven't
Yeah,
been to-
Canadian
Oh, yeah.
pharmacy, Canadian pharmacy.
No, it's the new Massachusetts burial assistance,
Really?
$30,000.
Oh, good luck.
Get back to Bob about that article because.
Yeah, this is the first of three apparently that Zach Blake, you may know Zach Blake, he was with the DOR for a number of years now. He's out of office, but he's
No,
Doing
well,
consulting
Mark,
type
say,
stuff.
we're close.
I thought it was interesting.
Okay.
Sure, number 12.
All right, so how does everybody feel about the next meeting being Tuesday, September 14th, here, 6 P.M.
You're in charge of the snacks.
When are we gonna have that celebration? When is the final payment made?
I don't remember if it's October, I think.
It's October.
Have a nice October fest party. Okay, so then, date sounds good,
That,
time sounds good. For then, the agenda for next time, we're gonna go back to the vehicle replacement
Mhm.
matter. We're done with the school tours with the schools for the time being, yes. Yep.
Did you send a thank you from the committee to Aaron?
You know what, I need to do that. He sent a thank you to us and was very grateful, but thanks for the reminder because, yeah, it was like the day after. and he-
Next time, if you had like a GoPro, and we could watch you as you walk through, that would be great.
Oh, is it in the budget?
It could be.
All right. That would be fantastic.
Bob can find money for anything,
That's right.
seriously.
Are there grants available?
Can we get a drone that'll follow us automatically?
Craig,
Craig,
Craig?
Craig.
Where is he?
I think he's still there.
14th may be tough for me.
Oh,
Yeah, we're good with the drone.
Thank you, Craig.
That's great.
Right through the,
Well-
right through the corner.
You have a GoPro too, I think, Craig.
You name it, I got it.
That's right. I know he's got that drone. It's right outside my window all the time. Why is that, Craig?
That's a little creepy.
Okay.
So bad, what are you thinking?
Might not be out on the vineyard.
We're having the meeting on the vineyard? That's awesome.
That's good, my cottage.
It's got enough room for it.
Well, Bob will get the money. Bob will apply for that grant.
I got you.
You're good?
I maybe, I have to.
Okay.
make
Well, if it has to be,
phone calls.
let me just check. If it has to be the
Next is the
21st, that's, I'm fine with me. too.
21st is not a problem for me.
Let me verify back to you that we're gonna have our reports back to you in time, because
Oh,
Yeah,
Otherwise, there's
stuff
no
like that.
point. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
tentative for the, 14th, but we may need to move it to the 21st.
Right.
And that depends on, we'll meet our secretary and consultant here on vehicles.
yeah,
And
reports.
also whether or not we have
Yeah,
the information. So maybe you and I need to touch base sometime.
Yep.
Before the 14th, yes?
Definitely.
Am I on it? Okay, so perhaps we could have a motion to adjourn.
Bruce is ready to start. Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Be safe.
Thank you.
Is it that TV? Yeah, I have to tell you, Bob, that is not a very sharp picture.
I
Is it
noticed
me?
that about the selectmen's meeting also.